Hey everybody, this is Dr. Krashek with a prospect related video. And yes, today's another Montreal Canadian video, I know. But I'm going to talk about the prospect pool because the Montreal Canadiens already have one of the youngest roster in the NHL, but the prospect pool is still very good. In this list, I'm going to include every player that are technically still rookies. Some players have a couple of NHL game. So here we go, my top 10 prospect for the Montreal Canadiens. At number 10, I have Jacob Dobish, a goalie that had really good moment and more difficult one. This is a player that I'm not 100% sure of his future with the Montreal Canadiens or in the NHL. He's a 6'4", 200 pounds goalie that's shown very good moment and more difficult one. In 16 game, have won 7 game, 1 shutout, and have a pretty decent number with 2.74 goal against and 909 save percentage. In the playoff, his number were a little bit lower, but still pretty decent for a rookie goalie. So for me, the big question, can he be more consistent and can he be a more NHL type of real goalie and be more solid every night? Because that was my main issue with him this season. Some game he was very hot and some game he was very cold. So for me, that's the question that need to be answered this season, and I think we're gonna have a pretty good answer by the end of this season. At number 9, my favorite defenseman last year in the Laval Rockets is Adam Ekstrom, and for me he was the guy who have shown the most development last year in Laval. He's a 6'2", 190 pounds lefty defenseman who played a very solid two-way game, and that's what I like about Adam Ekstrom. He's a guy who can show flash of a great offense, but also he is a very consistent two-way defenseman. Last year, had 5 goals, 22 assists for 27 points in 66 games. Those numbers are not elite, and I still think he need another year in Laval. But this is a guy that I think maybe for this 2026-2027 season can knock on the door and be almost NHL ready. So a guy like Chaai or Struble gonna have a way more competition in the near future because Adam Ekstrom is a very solid two-way defenseman who can bring offense but also play a very solid two-way game. And I think this style of hockey is more what Martin said we like in an NHL player. At number 8, Florian Chaai, maybe the biggest surprise of last year in the AHL. His season was amazing. The 6'4", 205 pound lefty winger have shown a lot of growth in this game last year, and his numbers were very solid. 24 goal and 11 assists for 35 points in 69 games. And those numbers happen playing a very physical and gritty style of play. I think he finished with the most penalty minutes of all time in the history of Laval Rockets, but have shown also a very good neck to finding opening and score goal. This is a guy who have a pretty decent shot and the ability to be very dangerous offensively. For me, he just need to work on his skating. I think his skating is kind of below average. And I think in the playoff, we kind of see that. I think the slow foot really hurt his game in the playoff. But if you work on that, you have maybe a guy who can be a third line winger. At number 7, I have Oliver Kapanen. And Kapanen, I think, have almost a sure spot with the Montreal Canadiens next year. I think he's one of the favorite of the GM and the coaches. The 6'1", 183 pound center have shown flashes of good offense last year, mostly in the SHL with 35 points in 36 games with 15 goals. With the Montreal Canadiens, only 2 assists in 18 games, and I'm not the biggest fan of Kapanen. I think his ceiling is kind of low. I think he's going to be a bottom 6 player, winger or center in the future, but a very good one. For the 2025-2026 season, I think Kapanen's gonna play mostly in Montreal, so we're gonna know by the end of the season what is the potential really is for Kapanen and what the ceiling is for his future in the NHL. At number 6, I have Owen Beck. Owen Beck have shown pretty solid thing last year. Even though I don't think have the biggest potential, for me, Owen Beck is one of the more sure value prospect in the Montreal Canadiens system. Owen Beck is a 6 foot, 198-pound righty center who had played almost all season in Laval. Only 12 games with the Montreal Canadiens, 1 assist, but in 64 games with the Laval Rocket have made 44 points with 15 goals. And for me, the biggest weapon for Owen Beck is his two-way game and his hockey IQ. He's one of the most solid players in the defensive zone in the Montreal Canadiens system. He's a hard-working player who never slow down. This is a guy that you can give him any mission and he really take them well. So I think his future is very good in the NHL. But I think he's mostly going to be a third line or a fourth line player with a very good future in the league and a very long one. So a good prospect to have. At number 5, Alexander Zarovski. And this is a guy that I hope gonna play in the KHL this season and not in the MHL because it doesn't have anything to prove in the MHL. He's a right wing, 6'1", 163 pounds right wing, who I think I see a really solid future for him in the NHL. His 50 point in 45 game with 24 goal are very solid for 17 years old. And when you watch what he does, you're gonna understand why he's a top 5 prospect and a guy that I think could be a top 6 player. He's one of the most creative and dangerous offensively player. He's also a guy that I've seen playing with way more grit in the playoff in the KHL and way more intensity. You need to work on the physical side of the game, the defensive side of the game, and for some people I think the skating is something that they want to see improve. But for me, it's mostly adding size and adding strength. That's going to change a lot of things for him and make him a more dangerous player because the top 6 potential is real for Zarovski. At number 4, I have Jacob Fowler, maybe one of the best prospects in the NHL in terms of the goalie position. Jacob Fowler having 2 amazing years in the NCAA and the 6'2", 240 pounds goalie have shown a lot of potential in his short stint in the AHL. In terms of number, Jacob Fowler have been very solid with a 2.32 and 914 save percentage, and in the playoff at 248 with a 902 save percentage. I think his future is pretty clear. He's the future in front of the net for the Montreal Canadiens. He's the future number 1 goalie, and I think the chance of that happening are very high, so a very solid prospect for the Habs. At number 3, I have Michael Hage, one of my favorite Montreal Canadian prospects since he was drafted. He's gonna play another year in University of Michigan, and I think this is the best situation for him. This 6'1", 190 pounds, and this info is maybe not very well because I've heard that he may be now 200 pounds center. He have made a very good number in the NCAA with 34 points in 33 games, 13 goals, 21 assists. So his number are very, very good. Now what I like is the fact that he take everything very seriously. This is a guy with a very solid set of skills, but you can see in the pre-camp, in the rookie training camp, that he have showcase a lot of progression. His game is way better than it was a year ago, way more complete. He's way more physically strong, and I really like that. That means this kid take everything he have very seriously, and when a hockey player with his potential take things seriously, you're gonna have a very solid player. And I think he's gonna be a very good number 2 guy behind Nick Suzuki, so his future is very, very bright. At number 2, I have David Rembacher, a player who need to stay healthy next season if you want to have the progression that a lot of people think he could have. David Rembacher is a 6'2", 194 pound righty defenseman who have a lot of potential. Number wise, Rembacher have, for the limited time he played, pretty decent number with 5 points in 10 games, 2 goals, 3 assists. And you need to keep in mind, Rembacher was drafted because he was a very solid two-way defenseman, but mostly because of the defensive side of his game. Rembacher uses his body very well in IQ to isolate and win board battle very, very easily. And the way he can defend in transition is very elite. But the offensive side of his game is also kind of underrated, and I think he can have a lot of growth this year if you play a full LT season in the AHL. At number 1, I have Ivan Demidov, maybe the favorite for winning the Calder next season in 2025-2026. He's a right wing, 6 foot, 192 pounds, shoot from the left, and he have been magical in the KHL and in the NHL at the end of the season. 2 points in 2 games against Chicago and Carolina, but also 49 points in 65 games in the KHL, playing very limited minutes. For me, Demidov is going to be a future superstar in the NHL. Maybe I'm wrong, but what I've seen from him is magical. His creativity and skill set is elite. Yeah, he need to work on the defensive side of the zone, but how he can protect the puck and create offensively for himself or for his teammate is very, very rare and almost elite. So Demidov is a very, very special player. So that was my top 10 prospect for the Montreal Canadiens entering the 2025-2026 season. If you want more prospect or draft related video, you can like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.